Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Thunder, and this is Case Closed, the highest level conversation on the most important topics in this space. In today's show, Case Closed, Obama did not help race relations in America. Obama did not help race relations in America. Now, I interviewed Daryl Davis, and that interview premiered yesterday. That is Saturday, August 12th, 2023. And we had a fascinating conversation on his journey answering a question. How can you hate me if you don't even know me? How can you hate me if you don't even know me? Really good conversation, really good interview. And so check that out. But that is definitely related to the conversation that we're going to have today. Because many believe that because we had a black president, because now we have a supposedly black vice president, that means that we've arrived. Martin Luther King's dream has been realized. Now, if you take a look at the numbers, especially associated with the state of the black community during the Obama presidency, that actually may paint a different picture. It may suggest that Obama was another symbol devoid of true meaning. Devoid of true meaning. True meaning would be, look at all of these things that improved during that presidency for the black community in particular. But actually, that's not the case. And during his presidency and since his presidency, it seems like there's been a revival of some would call it coded language. Some would call it outright racism. Some would call it racial insensitivity, cultural insensitivity. But there seems to have been a rise of racial tensions. Obama did not help race relations in America. Was the Obama presidency considered a net benefit to race relations in the eyes of the black community? What are some of the general attitudes towards Obama in the black community? How well did Obama manage the racial optics of his presidency? Is tokenism good enough? Is there an aspiration of diversity and inclusion that can go beyond tokenism? And was Obama himself a token? This and much more today on Case Closed. Obama did not help race relations in America. Let's go. Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Like, share, comment, subscribe, become a channel member where you'll get access to all archived videos, support black male media, support independent media, super chats enabled, super thanks for the Replay Gang, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. If you'd like to buy me a sandwich, hashtag sandwich gang, shoot me a Cash App. And if you didn't know it, sandwich is spelled with two M's. Take it away, Ike.
Shout out, shout out, shout out, shout out. Why are you laughing, hood conservative? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. And let me mention once again, case closed, right? 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Highest level conversation on the most relevant topics. I'm going to start with you, LAR. How's it going, by the way? How's it going these days?
It's great. It's just 197 degrees out here.
That thing. I was in Houston not too long ago. Well, I guess, yeah, anyways. Never mind. Let me ask the question about Obama like this. Let's say you are a correspondent, you're a news correspondent, right? You're a reporter, right? And you're doing a survey regarding the general attitudes of the average black person. So what is, the take of the average black man out there when you've gone out there and you've done your survey, or you can look back in your memory and whatever, and it's biased and it's anecdotal and all that. But what is the take regarding race relations? What did Obama add with regards to the struggle, the cause, and how did he mess it up? Starting with LAR.
Oh, snap. He was good for the image. He was good in the sense that there were really no scandals with him. So he was good in the sense that he actually finished what Bush didn't do, was get Osama bin Laden. He did a lot for white America, and he did a lot for gay America, and he did a lot for immigrants. And at the end of it, it looked like he did it, and at the same time didn't do anything for black America. He was an all America person. And so he did something for Asian America, if I'm not mistaken. Immigrants, but at the same time, he was deporting more people than ever. He was getting rid of people more than ever. So it just depends on which group look at him. But as in our group, it's like, so you're the first black president and you just ignored black people. That's just, that's how it comes off. And I mean, symbolism, great. Action, not.
Got it. Now let me stay there with you, LAR. What if somebody said, but he will never have been president if he, quote unquote, was all about the black thing? So what do you want him to? What do you want? You want a black president, or you want to be in the street corner talking black stuff but never make it to the presidency?
I think that's kind of like a straw man, because every other group gets something out of a president. I think when it comes to black people, all of a sudden it's, well, what is he supposed to be doing? Eating chicken and watermelon on the front lawn? It's like, damn, like what about the policies everybody else put in place? He can't do for other groups, for black America, what he does for other groups, and that's where it gets kind of, I would say very stereotypical and childish, because you can't. If somebody says, "Well, why are you giving to Israel?" Well, what? Okay, why are you giving to the gay community? Well, why are you giving why are you giving foreign aid to all these other foreign countries? Why you? What was that program? It's not DACA, right? It's it wasn't the STAR program, whatever it was, where people were able to just get their citizenship and stay here as the kids. You
Oh,
know,
was it what was it? The Dreamers? What was that called?
yeah, the
That
Dreamers
cartoon?
Act, it wasn't a big
Yeah.
deal. You know, and to this day, the hypocrisy of it would be the healthcare. Why you doing healthcare for just black people? Now, all this country on healthcare, but it's like, oh my God, you know, it's not an issue for people with pre-existing conditions if they're not black. So yeah, it's just to me, it's like a straw man argument.
Got it, got it, got it. Ladies and gentlemen, as you come in, go ahead and subscribe to Dr. Thunder's channel. For those of you, and shout out to the super chat, by the way. Right, Dr. Thunder, you got it highlighted there on the screen. It is a super sticker, I believe. Go ahead, Dr. Thunder.
Yeah, it's the frowning face super sticker. Frowning
It's the
face.
frowning face super sticker. This, you know what? How
Yeah.
much is it? How much is it, by the way? 99 cents. You know what? You should
That's
really
like
appreciate this.
$1.27.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
$1 to
that's
number one, but also it's from a Somali dude. This is like thousands of dollars.
oh goodness. Oh.
Yeah, I had a question
Shout out to
for
Mrs. H
Eliad.
holding it down.
Eliad,
Go ahead, Kaizo.
yeah, the question I had is this: okay, don't you think though that the reason why some of these communities got what they got is because they were low hanging fruit things, right? The let's get busy together groups. All they wanted is some political um, structures to be on their favors, right? Like things like marriage bills and stuff like that. What I'm trying to say is what they wanted was simple. Same thing with giving amnesty to kids who are born in the United States. These are simple things to give. Meanwhile, someone could argue what was a collective Black American want. Whatever they want is more complex, requires much more coordination, and it's a lot more nuanced. What, don't you think that's a point to consider there? He was just answering low hanging fruit stuff that would give him his voting standards.
No, I mean, when it comes to that, really what it comes down to is just a basic disrespect of our humanity. Everything is too much. It's always too difficult. It's always, everybody on the planet will lose if something is done for us. So a lot of times it's basically um, people being passive aggressive and screwing my community over. Because when things are done for everybody else, that argument doesn't exist. It's not too much. It's not too nuanced. It's not uh the country just can't come together and figure it out. It's none of that. Nothing's too big and nothing's too small when it comes to everybody else. So no, I just think it's an excuse people use because, if you've got to be frank, people are just assholes. When it comes to us, they're just assholes. You know.
Okay, so Dr. Thunder, again, the context is you're kind of just being a reporter, right? And you've been observing. And the idea here is, was Obama's presidency considered a net benefit with regards to race relations in the eyes of the average Black person? We've heard from LAR. He has defended his position, basically saying, symbol, yes, substance, no. What do you say?
Yeah, symbol yes, substance no. We black folks, um, we love empty symbols. That's our jam. We love that, right? But substance, that's a completely other thing. Now, I would argue that since most people are positively impacted by seeing other people that look like them achieving at a certain level, most people are actually impacted by that. That doesn't matter to me. I don't I don't care about that at all. I want access, right? So if I have access, then the rest of it is like I don't care about it, right? But our people love empty, meaningless symbols. We love that. And that's why we have been so easy to exploit, so easy to pander to, because you don't actually have to do anything, right? You can just do some stuff that's empty. And, a point I make about multiculturalism is that the people that are behind the scenes controlling, you know, hand selecting the representatives that get a seat at the table, they're all members of the dominant society. Oligarchy status members of the dominant society. And so, for the fact that Barack Obama was selected, that tells you that they knew before they put him in office that he was not going to be one of these, let's really do some meaningful stuff for the black community kinds of risks. They knew that before. And it's interesting. It's interesting. If you think about how you can easily tell what a person's end is going to be, what kinds of things that they're likely to actually achieve based on if they were a brown noser, kissing butts, puckering up, getting the chapstick out. These kinds of individuals on their ascension, they are never, ever going to be a threat to the status quo. Never. And the folks that hand select, the folks that are going to have a seat at the table, they already knew what was going to happen, or they wouldn't have put that person there. So I'm not surprised that it was just empty symbolism. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised. But I am disappointed.
Huh. Okay.
Now,
And
as a just I just want to say this last thing. As a see, I Obama would be the kind of guy that I would get along with. He seems to be an introvert. He seems to actually have prioritized more substance over swag, as it were. He seems to be more of a nuts and bolts, productivity oriented kind of guy. That's how I read him. And he's well spoken. He's an intelligent guy. All of that stuff. So he's the kind of guy that I would get along with. And there was no scandals during his time in the White Office. In the White Office. In the White House. Sorry.
well, there you go.
Sometimes that happens. There was no scandals, and he has been married to the same woman all these years. So from that perspective, I think he did a fine job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
But as far as delivering tangibles for the black community,
Yeah.
Trump might have done better in his 4 years than Obama did in his 8.
There you go.
Say that, but hey, I'm just keeping
You've
it real.
thrown the grenade across the enemy lines there. It's like, hey, Trump was better. But anyways, let's we will explore this further. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to Freedman's Journal, the Hoodservative, Game Changer. Go ahead and click that like button, share the stream as you come in. Now, Kaiser, you also get a chance to respond, or shall I say react to with regards to what you observe and what you've just heard about the Obama presidency. The reaction, the general weighing of the effects of the Obama presidency from the eyes of the average black person. And you're a dusty Kenyan. There's a Kenyan story in there somewhere that you can pick up, and maybe you can say maybe the good half of him was the Kenyan and the white half was not so good or whatever. But go ahead. What do you got to say?
Yeah, so I think ultimately, if you look at Obama's case being the first of something in a country that is already, let's say, racially polarized, it would have been difficult for him to take on difficult concepts. For example, Tankybot mentioned on the chat, reparations would have been something he could have, uh, spearheaded. But given the fact that it came from certain supporters, that would have been too divisive for the American experience, right? He already had issues getting in. People saying he was an immigrant. He didn't have birth certificates and all that stuff. So there's already a lot of stuff that he couldn't have, been a pioneer of and expected, let's say, a second term and stuff like that. So I think things like that also take time, stuff like reparations. So I don't think that would have been something I would think is strategic for him to focus on. Now, I would say also the issues in the black community tend to be very abstract, right? Because if again, mention about the Kenyan aspect, right? I come from Kenya, right? Here I see real poverty. I see real people in the streets. American poverty, regardless of race, is not real poverty to someone like me, right? So I'm thinking, the issues that, let's say, Black Americans have. To me, I think these are abstract problems stemming from uh, concepts of nationhood, identity, rights, responsibilities, and stuff that they were promised and or, let's say, prevented from participating, such as redlining. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this, right? I don't really remember during Obama's time there being a heavy black coalition that was actually focused on specific goals and interest groups
Yes. Okay.
on
Cool.
the
So
media.
pause there for a second because I like this because it's kind of obvious that we're talking about a particular branch of the government, the executive branch, right? The president, the head executive, its particular ways of doing things, its powers and such, right? And then also because first of all, you have stated that the issues are, shall we say, complex, right? And they spread across a wide swath of areas that are not all within the purview of the executive branch. I think that much could be clearly stated. Or do you disagree with that aspect of what I just said? I'm highlighting an aspect of what you said. Do you agree with that aspect?
Yes, I definitely agree with it. So let me ask the panel before you go ahead, right? And this is to Dr. Thunder as well as LAR and you, Ike, is at that time, what were the Black American lobbyist group asking for? And were they, again, things that were actionable from the specific branches of the government that could enact on certain things? As I mentioned earlier in my starting statement, the Let's Get Busy Together groups actually came in with specific deliverables and outcomes. They understood how the system works, and these were things which could be given. Same thing with, let's say, the amnesty bill, things to do with amnesty to people born in the country, etc., to gain citizenship. What were the Black Americans asking for? What lobbyist groups were functioning at that time during Obama's presidency? And also media as well. Were there any real Black media stations that were promoting these lobbyist groups? And in my understanding, because I was there watching this live from the UK, and all I remember is there was a lot of happiness, right? Jovialness around the fact that there was a Black president.
So let me give my answer, and then anyone can answer in the way in the way they prefer. The overall thrust is you want specifics, right? You want specifics as to the entire what was the rest of the apparatus doing, because you're talking about the president of the United States. So okay, well, he's not going to do everything. There has to be a whole apparatus down there doing other things and so on and so forth. I'm going to mention that with regards to the apparatus and with regards to the operation of the system, it was the typical kind of, well, one party controls the executive but does not have the House and the Senate. Obama had all three branches for about 4 months throughout his whole time, right? So basically, this means, to those who are not perhaps familiar with the American system of government, you have these three aspects, right? But it's just two really we're talking about. One, we have two houses, which is part of the legislature, right? There's a House of Representatives and then there's a Senate. That's just part of the legislature, right? And then you have the executive, okay? Now, you can control the executive, but if the Republicans control the Senate, then whatever you propose, it gets kiboshed by them and vice versa and all that kind of stuff. So that's the typical kind of gridlock that happens in Washington. and Obama had the control of all three only for a short period of time. But go ahead, LAR and Mr. Thunder. What was the rest of the apparatus doing? What was the rest of the lobbying groups? And yeah, what was his
Here,
support?
let me acknowledge the super chat first. Thank you for the $10 super chat from C. Ray Rogers. I had the distinct honor of meeting then Senator Obama when, in fact, I was running for student body president. Laugh out loud, he's a decent man, but fails to realize how much we needed stronger institutions.
Stronger institutions. There you go. What were the institutions doing? So go ahead.
You want me to go or you, Doc?
No, you got it, Elio.
A lot of this, like Kaizo, you were in the UK, but this is kind of what happens, a revisionist history. You know, when Obama was in office, he got the most death threats of any president when you combine them all. Why? Because of race. That's when a lot of the national news stories about police killings, and that's when he did the beer summit and back the blue type thing, even from because it started with Louis Gates, and it went all the way past Trayvon. It went past Trayvon. So part of that was like, hey, y'all need to do something about this police situation. He wouldn't do anything about that. The other thing that we skip over, like when you said 4 months, if I recall, it was the midterm when they flipped the House and the Senate, House or the Senate. Because initially, when he got in office, he had everything. He just didn't do anything with it because he kept reaching out to Republicans to help him when he didn't need them, when they had the numbers to push through whatever he wanted. He just didn't do it. Well, he's going to get the credit for not doing it because he kept trying to reach out unnecessarily. The most important thing that keeps coming up with him is he was raised by his white grandparents who had racist prejudice leanings and undertones. So he uses Chicago as a, I was in Chicago, but really his upbringing wasn't like that. So he was more of an apologist, because he grew up with white people and he knew white people so well. And if you remember him on the campaign, even when Hillary Clinton made the "he should be shot" comment, and when he said people are holding on to their guns in the Bible, and people was like, "Hey, you got to get rid of this guy," like he always, when it came to white people, he kowtowed, he bowed down. And even when you take that abroad, you remember how they disrespected him in Russia, and he ain't say nothing. So he had a history of, when white people disrespect him, I'm not going to do anything. So when black people want something and white people say, he wasn't going to stay. He didn't stand up to that. That's not the kind of black he is. And even the way he became a senator, it was kind of undercutting in some snake way that he got Bobby Rush's spot. But he did it to somebody black. So that's how people look at it. Well, it didn't matter. Is he good as a symbol? Yeah. Did people ask him stuff? Yeah. Well, I think what people see with Black America is black celebrities always partying at the White House. Black people asked him for stuff, he just wouldn't do it. But he would throw a party though. He's like, "Hey man, come on, we got a concert going. Hey man, we need da. Well, we ain't gonna do that." That was the thing that went on.
Go ahead, Dr. Thunder, with the super chat, I'm assuming.
Yes. Black Uru Strikes. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure.
And he says, I recall the Obama administration being antagonistic towards black issues. In fact, I recall his avoiding meeting with the Congressional Black Congress.
Indeed. So I'm going to add some more context, and then I'm going to refire the question back at you,
Sure.
Dr. Thunder, and then we'll go up onto Kaizo here. So I'm going to recontextualize it like this. Like, was Obama overly concerned with not being the angry black man? We've seen the context provided by LAR regarding his upbringing and the kowtowing, right? That's one way to look at it. I can put some particulars with regards to Jeremiah Wright. Okay. Now, Jeremiah Wright, for those of you who don't know or might have forgotten, was kind of a campaign thing, right? It came up during the Obama campaign, and Wright is a retired senior pastor of Trinity United Church of Christ, Chicago, Chi-Town, right? And Obama's former pastor, basically. And he was the kind that kind of spoke truth to power in the style and mold of Farrakhan. It's good enough shorthand, right? You know, Dr. Thunder, right? He's a Christian, is on this other side of the aisle, but same kind of thing going on, right? Okay, cool. And he respected in the Chicago community, but Obama had to disavow him, right? Obama had to be like, that kind of a thing, right? So that's even adding some more context. And so, was Obama overly concerned with not being seen as the angry black man? How would you, Dr. Thunder, have handled the Jeremiah Wright thing?
Well, so here's the thing. Those that sort of hand selected Obama knew what his choice would be when he encountered that sort of scenario. I think that it was lily livered and spineless and a shame that he would throw someone under the bus that has meant that as much as Jeremiah Wright meant to him, as a mentor, as a spiritual leader, as a friend, right? I think that it was underhanded in everything else. Now, I can say that, and I can also disagree with a lot of the stuff that Jeremiah Wright says.
So you're in a perfect
Okay.
situation, right? Because you are presumably in the same situation that Obama was. Let's say, in my mind, there's no way of knowing Obama's mind, but let's say you guys are similar, right? As you mentioned earlier, you would have gotten along, right? So perhaps Obama was in the same situation where he did not necessarily agree with what Jeremiah Wright was saying. He had a more nuanced view of things, right? He could still abide and whatnot. So then what do you do? In other words, what should Obama have done in that situation where you kind of agree and you kind of see things, and but now the country's looking at you saying, hey, you must disavow this guy. He's racist, blah, blah, blah.
Lar,
Go ahead.
it looked like you had something you wanted to add first. Go ahead, Lar.
The thing about the Jeremiah Wright thing is the same thing that happened with, was it Shelly Sherrod or Shelby Sherrod, whatever, the Sherrod lady? They took a clip of somebody black that knew him or that worked for him, put it out of context, put it on TV,
Yep.
let it run. People went crazy, and then after he disavowed him and even let the lady go, then they played the whole thing, and it was like, oh, my bad. And he never fixed the situation after that. He just let it go. That was the issue. Because what Jeremiah Wright said was not, it was factually correct. And in a religious sense, it was correct. And he wasn't talking, he was just talking about the things this country had done to people in this country and outside of this country. And you're saying, God bless America when you're doing it, when you've done these things. That doesn't
Yeah.
work if biblically. And the same thing with Sherrod. They made it something completely different than what it was. And then when he said, I don't mess with him no more. And they said, yo, this is actually what happened. Well, let's just move on to the next topic, Jim. Like, but but if somebody white got in that situation, he found a way to get to the bottom of it and fix it.
Yeah.
That was the whole hypocrisy with the beer summit thing. So my bad, but that's the point.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would underline that point. If you listen to Jeremiah Wright in the full context, you'll have less issues. I still have some other issues with Jeremiah Wright. Okay, from a uh, theological, and there's some other reasons why I would reject certain things that he said. However, if you see it in full context, then you probably have less issues. But my issue again is, um, if you're in a situation where you have an opportunity to clarify, then you should clarify. I mean, he could have cleared that up. He could have cleaned that up. He could have just said, look, if you listen in the full context, X, Y, and Z, matter of fact, here's the whole clip. He could have done all of that stuff.
So it basically is the goddamn America clip, right? Is that is the clip, right? That was the
Yeah.
one that was kind of used, right?
Right.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought even back then immediately was like, I'm sure I could find a swath of freaking. I could throw a rock and hit a church where some similar fire and brimstone type stuff is being preached about America or some governor or some party or something like that, right? So it's not. I mean, it's it's just some good Old Testament stuff, right? But anyways, go ahead.
It's interesting. I would agree. I would have agreed with you. I don't know, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But actually, these days, no, there's not a lot of fire and brimstone coming from the pulpit. It's way more love and kumbaya, and placating certain folks that are overrepresented in the church. Yeah, I won't say who I'm talking about, but we
And that's
know
why
who.
Kaizo's a Muslim now, by the way. So that's why
Okay.
the
Well,
brimstone's
I
at.
thought he went back Christian. I thought he came back Christian.
You know,
Anyhow,
who knows? We'll find
let
out.
me let me acknowledge the super chat. Black Uru strikes with another $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Saying Ted Kennedy's death hurt Obama. Ted was a strong Obama supporter, and he was a powerhouse in the Congress. Also, the
Very true.
GOP claimed Kennedy's Senate seat.
Quite true. Quite true. Quite true. So, and thanks again, the super chat champion so far of the show, and also shout out to Mrs. H for the previous super chat. Now, Kaizo, right? So, basically, the question on the table is: in your view, was Obama overly concerned, or how did he play the racial optics? Is another way to put it. But basically, was he, with regards to the aspect of being overly concerned as being seen as the angry black man? So I got to play it in a certain way, right? And this particular context, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jeremiah Wright, but you get the idea, right? So you're out there, you're aspiring, competent young black man, and you like this preacher. He does a little fire and brimstone type stuff, similar to Louis Farrakhan, but just take Louis Farrakhan as a model, and then later you have to go and disavow him like a little cuck because you were cucked by the white. Anyways, what would you have done, and what do you think regarding Obama being worried about seen as the angry black man?
Yeah, so if Obama was worried about being perceived in any manner that would lose him his support base, right? I don't think this whole angry black man is unique. If we look at him during his position as a senator, right? He was anti let's get busy together, right? There's videos of it and him going to black churches and other areas and saying we are against this marriages between a man and a woman. But of course, when he realized that his support base, and in terms of Congress and all that stuff, these are the kinds of people who want to push certain ideas, are the ones who will also help him push other bills. He switched around. Obama was a Machiavellian. He understood how power functions and how to maintain power. And I think, was he overly, let's say, compensating in certain key areas about his blackness? I think he was as vocal about how his race and identity impacts him and his position as he could have been in that position. Meanwhile, understanding that the majority of the voters are white Americans.
Indeed, and one thing that came to mind when LAR said what he said. What did LAR say? LAR said basically he's a guy raised by white grandparents. So what came to mind was, okay, so he is who he is, generally speaking, right? Not that
But
his
generally, he
grandparents
embodies the black
raising him.
experience, right? A single mother raises him, his black father ran away. So it makes
Yeah, I mean, he has those creds, he has those cards handled, right? But
No, no,
basically,
no,
he doesn't.
absolutely no. See, a lot, and this is what I mean by revisionist history. Kaizo, why do you think his father wasn't in America?
I'm not too sure.
Simple. When was he born? Jim Crow, basically, still. Guess what happened when black men had kids with white women? Either they put them up for adoption or they kept the kid and ran the guy out of town.
Good point. Good point.
That's the long and short of how this goes. Because on the flip side, there were a lot of passe blanc or mixed kids that were on the black side of town, and they knew who their other father was, and they were completely abandoned because they were black. So when they with the white family, 9 times out of 10, they raised that kid to dislike black people. That's the tragic mulatto shtick. So that's all I was saying. My bad.
Good. No,
No
good point. Good
problem.
point.
Sir. Yeah, that's a very good point. Um, so one thing that came to mind, I was saying that when you mentioned earlier that he was raised in a certain way, the thing that came to mind was, well, he is who he is, and he happens to want to be president of the United States, right? Yeah, he used the black thing too, such as, you would use whatever you can. This is not the battle that you don't, whatever you got. If you're trying to become president of the United States, you bringing out you pulling all the shots, right? I mean, you can't be. So, but he wasn't. So Eliar, that's part of what you're saying, right? He wasn't the guy, even, right? And there's nothing he could have done about it, right? What do you say to that, Eliar?
He could have done something. He just wasn't going to do it. He was already programmed to not do it.
Okay.
You got to think you got to think about it in the sense of like Kaiser, like you Kenya. You remember if it wasn't his administration that went to Africa and said they need to accept homosexuality?
Yeah, they actually used him for that, and the Kenyans got really
Right.
annoyed at that. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was a low level of contempt. You saw it with other black people that came to the office. If it was talking about partying, he loved you. If it was talking about politics, he dismissed you. That came from his upbringing. And you constantly saw him disrespected by white people. And he took it on the chin every last time. He never just you and this is what I mean. Before him or after him, have you seen people on television make threats, who are citizens, make threats of killing him? No. How many times have the White House got shot at when he was in office? How many people were supposed to be in jail for their death threats and actually attempts on his life while he was in office that didn't actually go to jail? He had a whole thing. He could have, just not being a black president, just being a president, he could have shut the disrespect down in the first year by locking up every person that threatened to kill him. And they would have got them at, okay, we can't do that with him. But he didn't. So it persisted for 8 years.
Yeah, can we this comment right here? Let me just read this comment by Black Guru Strikes. Obama was partly raised by a Malaysian man whom his mother married. No one ever talks about that or talks about his half Malay sister.
Yeah, hence the Muslim accusations, right?
Right, right. Real quick, like, share, comment, subscribe, become a channel member where you'll get access to all archived videos. Support black male media, support independent media, super chats enabled, super thanks for the replay gang. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. If you'd like to buy me a sandwich, then shoot me a Cash App. Hashtag Sandwich Gang. And if you didn't know, sandwich is spelled with 2 M's. 2 M's. Sandwich. Sandwich. All right. Let's keep going.
So we remember Trayvon Martin, right? I think LAR brought it up as one of the things. And then it was hands up, don't shoot. Now, post Obama, then we had George Floyd and BLM and whatnot, and the beer bug and all that good times that happened in the last few years. But if we go back to Trayvon Martin, one thing that Obama did was to come out and say something about that. Okay. In other words, so this was him trying to step out and say something, and he compared Trayvon with a hypothetical son. We remember that one, right? Where if I had a son, right, it looked like Trayvon. And some let me not qualify the question too much then. So that move, picking out Trayvon, lots of kids are getting shot out there, and whatever. You don't have to. President doesn't have to say anything about it. He picked Trayvon, and then he said a son thing. Um, what are your thoughts, Dr. Thunder, about? Oh no, no. Let's start with Kaiser. Okay, what do you think about that? And then Dr. Thunder, how do you think Obama handled that situation? Kind of comparing Trayvon with his son. Some people say that um, it was kind of divisive. And, he should have blah 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 waited for all the facts to come out. Whatever it is. But Kaizo and then Dr. Thunder.
Yeah, I think that was the right thing for him to do. The accusations of divisiveness would have come regardless, in different contexts. And also, when you have these presidential matters, Bush was accused of not reacting fast enough when it came to Hurricane Katrina. So whenever these things happen, and he is a spokesperson in this case, since he is the person from the racial minority group, I think he had to act as fast as he could. And by doing and saying what he did, there would have been some backlash, but I don't think it was a politically detrimental statement or take that he took. I think ultimately it worked in the greater sort of context for him, right? It looked like he said something for the black community, and for the white community, they're seeing him as human and not just some god who never really says what he feels.
All right, all right. So, all-out score in the human touchy-feely kind of department. Everyone says, or Kaizo is saying. So, Dr. Thunder, what are your thoughts on that? Shout out to John Gilroy. Kind of joining. Right. Welcome to Bachelor of Music level membership. Shout out to you. But Dr. Thunder, what do you think about the Trayvon, my son comment that Obama made?
I actually I don't have an issue with that. I think that Kaizo pointed out that it wasn't going to matter. If he didn't respond, folks would claim that he didn't respond fast enough. Or I mean, if he waited and then responded, right, it wouldn't be fast enough, a la Bush. Um, and he responded when he responded, and I think it does. It shows that the guy's a human being. Um, in most ways, I like Obama, right? I just hate his politics. I hated his politics. Um, but in most respects, and even with respect to the way that he conducted himself and how he addressed matters, I pretty much it seems I would have done much of the same, and they probably would have criticized me in the same way. So yeah.
Boom. LER, what do you think about the Trayvon Martin comment? You in agreement? Think everyone so far. I also perhaps maybe I should add what I think about it. I think it wasn't bad. I think that it was nice. It was imaginative. If I had a son, he would look like Trayvon, and I think that he actually also thought that, right? So politics aside, I think he also kind of thought, just kind of like that. That's the kind of thing that just seems to me like he would have thought, like, oh yeah, obviously he has daughters, but hey, it was a son, kind of light skinned kind of kid, right? Probably look like that kind of lanky, tall kid, good looking kid, getting all the. By the way, it's interesting. Like if you look into the Trayvon Martin case, if you look into like the documents, turns out Trayvon was a player, by the way, but not. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but it was an interesting kind of thing that Trayvon got all the ladies. Complete non sequitur, non factor. But LAR, what are your thoughts regarding Trayvon Martin and
Let's
Obama?
get the likes up. Get the likes up. 53 people
Uh,
watching. Only 37 likes. Please get the likes up. Go ahead.
the Trayvon Martin thing. I added with the Rakia Boyd thing and him getting shot at the White House. Think about that. Trayvon Martin dies, Rakia Boyd gets shot in Chicago. He sends Mrs. Obama to the funeral. And then somebody shoots at him in the White House. And I forgot the other guy who like ran up the stairs with a knife looking for him. That the cumulative effect of his talking points is what made people go, something's wrong with you. Because, okay, yeah, he would have been your son. That's nice. This girl gets shot. You don't even, and this is your quote unquote home city, right? Not to mention the history in that city. And then on top of that, somebody shoots at you in the White House. And somebody runs into the White House with a knife looking for you. And then it's like, wait. He started to make it look like white people could do no wrong. Basically, if we fast forward and Obama was in office for January 6th, it would be the same response. Oh, they were just nice white guys who just ran into the building. My bad. I mean, hey, it just hit a few people. It's the justice system that gets them riled up. It's the same thing. He doesn't, it showed, simply put, for America, he wanted to show strength in the world by doing certain things. But also for America, he wanted to be white people's bitch to show that they still had power while he was being the president. So it was like, yo, like, when you gonna actually stand up? And not to mention all, had no problem with getting Gaddafi shot. So it shows like you could, when you really want to get somebody, you could get them. But depending on the complexion, you not. So it was hypocritical, man.
Got it. LAR keeping it real. Obama being accused of not keeping it real, ladies and gentlemen, as we transition from race relations to like broader social harmony, Dr. Thunder, right? As expressed by the pursuits of diversity and inclusion programs, for example, right? So broader social harmony. I want to ask a few kind of true or false questions here to you, Dr. Thunder. Let's just go back and forth a little bit. Like that social harmony, right? A situation where everyone exudes a feeling of being seen, heard, validated, acknowledged is something that most people desire. True or false?
Yeah, most folks want to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
You want to be seen and heard, and it's actually important to them. It's beyond what it might be to you, right? It's the word of quote unquote extroverted feeling, to use an old shorthand, is an important thing to people. It's actually quite substantive and important, right? Okay. Social harmony might seem fake and go along to get along, right? From the perspective of someone who maybe doesn't prioritize it as much, right? That is also, you would agree with that as well, too, Dr. Thunder, right?
Yeah.
And maybe but social harmony might be all that diversity and inclusion is asking, right? So the question is, if you're looking for intellectual diversity, right? Isn't that against the social harmony which is actually desired and has been stated as the goal of these extroverted feelers out here, right? Now, what they mean
Wait a
by
minute.
diversity and inclusion is, hey, everybody, go ahead.
Say the first part of that again. You said if this, then
Intellectual, kind of like viewpoint diversity, thought diversity, intellectual diversity, right?
Mhm.
Is anti, a lot of times, social harmony.
Right.
um, so I'm having a thought here, but let me ask you this question. Is it possible,
Mhm.
Dr. Thunder, that what diversity and inclusion is really after is this social harmony? In other words, it's not the diversity that you're talking about. They're asking for social harmony. They told you that that's what they want. They want to feel heard. They want to feel acknowledged and validated and seen and see the different colors and all that kind of stuff and do all that kind of stuff. Exude that in the external environment, and that's all they're after. Such that if you're saying, "Hey, how about real substantive diversity? How about this less symbolism stuff?" They're like, well, that's we're not looking for this substantive diversity because that causes harm and discord.
Mm. You know what? So as I think about this, something that's interesting about the whole diversity and inclusion, the intersectional stuff, the intersectional feminist stuff, is that though the attempt is to uh, point at the whole Ronald Reagan colorblind society, the intention is to point at that and say, see, that is all wrong and will tend to favor the dominant society, right? But the outcome of the intersectional feminist stuff is still the same goal as the as the colorblind society thing, right? And that is to attempt uh, not to evaluate things based on substance, but to evaluate them on something other than substance. Yeah, whatever it is, uh, whatever the superficial stuff is, right? So notice that my color is brown. Notice that my that I'm a woman, or notice that I'm a trans person, or notice that I am um, body positive, notice that I am. So in a sense, they're trying to make that stuff disappear. They don't want you to notice it. They don't want you to say, hey, this might be a problem. It's the same thing. It's just the method is different.
Mhm.
So I think that's an interesting. I mean, yeah, and it just sort of just occurred to me that that is actually the case.
So, Kaizo, is diversity of thought, let's say, or like diversity of kind of viewpoint, there's a certain type of diversity that libertarians are always kind of saying, like, oh, but we should be like people who like to argue, a bunch of INTPs in there talking about how real diversity it should be like the different experience, different viewpoint, blah blah blah. But we just describe social harmony, Kaizo, right? We just describe social harmony. Social harmony is a big deal, okay? It's what people want. That's what they say they want. They want to be around the warm fire, eating from the same bowl of porridge, singing kumbaya, feeling heard and seen, and all that, right? So is like kind of thought diversity necessarily a challenge to the picture of social harmony that's being painted? Uh, Not a real question. It's a kind of a asks for comment upon that. That is all that DEI is after, okay? Just this kind of social harmony. And hence, this viewport diversity, obviously, they're not looking for that because that is going to cause discord, if you will.
Um, well, I think ultimately, it depends on the groups and the societal structure that's actually uh, functioning at that moment. So, in general, society obviously requires a certain level of diversity to allow for for them to realign itself. John Peterson's always talking about how the two wings work, right, left and right. Each one pulls on each direction in order to make sure that there's a flight stability, right? So you do need some level of sort of diversity. However, I think the question is, do you want there to be radical diversity of thought? And I think no. For society to function, you can't be uprooting the the cement from under people's foot in a high-rise building structure each time for them to realign themselves and find more stability. In other words, radical thought differences aren't really necessary for society. This is for the elites who are actually pushing the agendas on the social structures, right? These are for the philosophers, the political commentators, but not for the people.
Got it. Yeah. So for the people, you want them towing a certain line, even if it's just at least the line that works. Because part of saying, hey, you don't want this radical thought diversity is so that you don't allow crazy people in, crazy ideas, taking over, right? So it's a delicate issue. It's not just something
Yeah,
that is kind of easy.
an example is how coming from a, let's say, an African perspective, we're seeing that there's a lot of madness going on in the West, right now we have let's get busy together, and now they're arguing whether they are having advantages, the ones who are once males in sports. Things like this. You let some crazy ideas in space, now you're actually seriously debating scientific facts, or what is a woman, what is a female. Madness comes in when you start allowing certain things in the
Mhm.
common space.
Exactly, sir. Exactly, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, again, click that like button, share, subscribe to this channel. Okay, super chat, super thanks for the replay, gang. Become a channel member as well. We're talking about Barack Obama. We're also talking about tokenism and diversity. And here we're at this juncture, we're talking about the fact that perhaps all that the DEI is aiming for is tokenism, is surface level, feel included. How best do you want to feel included in today's seminar, right? You want us to show, you want the brown poster? Do you want the black fist? Or do you want us to wear kente cloths? Okay. That's,
Oh,
in other words,
goodness.
that good stuff.
That was
you know,
like that was a low point, man. That was like a new low.
Points
When
like
they
that is when
dealt
you
with
think
that,
we
man,
might
I was like, this is
we
we
might be
we
living in a
done.
simulation because it's too good. This is like this could not be written by like Saturday Night Live. Like this is just too like the simulation writers are just having a blast today. Well, LAR, let me ask you the question from this tokenism standpoint, right? Basically saying, look, I don't know how you feel regarding attempts towards diversity and inclusion. Maybe if you think even if that there are good ways of going about it or not, right? But let's say that there are good ways of going about it. Isn't all just going to end up in like tokenism? Because how can you really, if you have this program that is looking for diversity, it's only going to find it in the surface, or it's going to create a game where people are going to be showing certain kind of surface things. It's that kind of thing where once you create a target, it becomes gamified or something like that, right? But diversity and inclusion is only going to end up in tokenism, right? And we should just accept the tokenism. What do you say to that, LAR?
Hmm. America has always been diversity in labor, but non-inclusion in capitalism. So the issue has, I guess, become that tokenism is the thing to keep people believing that they can be included into capitalism. Um, so that's a weird. You can make it. Like I forgot what it was where the guy was talking about percentages. He was like 20 to 22% of white Americans can uh, are going to become millionaires, and it was like 11. I think that 15% of Asians can become millionaires, but 3% of Black and Hispanics can become millionaires. And he was like, that doesn't. If we're living in the same country, this is something's off with this. And it's like that's how it was set up. That's the epitome of what tokenism is. Um, and another thing that happened that goes with this is I saw another clip of a guy. He said, C students run the country. C students are the people who are basically your business people and your entrepreneurs. And they started a business or this, that, and the third. But one thing I add to that is C students understand society better because they spend more time networking because they're C students. And part of that networking is I'm gonna put you on my team, and I'm gonna make sure you're not on my team. So of course, when it comes to this country, it's like, yeah, like it's not gonna happen. Inclusion is not gonna happen in a wide sense. You know, if all you have to do is look at construction in America. We say Hispanics and Mexicans are hardworking guys because they work construction. Funny how the management isn't Hispanic and Mexican. Funny how the construction companies aren't Hispanic and Mexican, but the workers are. Funny how they can't find their way up. Look in the tech industry. They say, Asians, they're killing the tech industry. They're doing everything. They're out here, they're creating all this stuff. Funny how when you look up at the CEOs and the management, you really don't see that many Asians. They can write the code and make all the stuff, but guess what? You're not going to be up in this room. Yeah, you can be the worker and kind of like in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the quadrants. You can be rich in that labor quadrant of being a worker, but being an owner, no. You're gonna have issues. That's what the bulk of redlining is. It's not just the real estate part of buying a home. What do you think happens when you start a business? Somehow your business gets robbed a lot. I don't know if y'all remember this story that happened recently we talk about the flash mobs and the robberies. People going into people's establishments and just robbing them blind and walking off. It was like, I don't know if it was a white and Asian couple. They got arrested because they paid people to do it because they wanted the $2.8 million insurance policy. So this is, and that goes back to Chicago having riots where the people the white people, the Jewish people were burning down their own stuff and blaming it on black people to get the insurance policies and running off. That's how this works. You can't have inclusion with the corruption of how America is built, because if you have inclusion, somebody's gonna say, you screwing me over. So now I'm gonna use these same mechanisms to get you for what you did. You don't want somebody in the room that could be a whistleblower. Look at whistleblowers in society. They get fired. They get hunted down. Some of them get killed. This is what America is, whether we like it or not.
It's quite interesting. Yeah. When you talk about the C students and you talk about perhaps their particular either penchant or skill with regards to like the socialization, the networking, and all that kind of stuff. Now, there is one group that actually does pretty well when it comes to the entrepreneur stuff. The percentage, so in terms of unicorn companies that at a particular stage in the evaluation, like, initial type of like seed A round funding are valued at $1 billion. So it's typically like these tech companies, right? 64% of those companies, of these, are by immigrants. Now, so not but that's a very small percent. That's a particular corner of a particular market, right? But to give hope in the system, because we know LAR is all
Wait.
gloom and doom.
No,
Go ahead.
no. You do realize that Steve Jobs kind of counts in the immigrant category with Apple.
I know that Elon Musk is also an immigrant too, and I know there's certain kind of, yeah. But it's also true that they are immigrants, right?
But they're white immigrants.
You're correct, but you're correct. But the thing is, immigrants are overrepresented. The point that I think is one of the relevant points there is that they're coming out from a social network that is slightly separate, right? And that might not be blocked by the tightened up social networks of the C students that you described before, right? So yeah, sure, they're still white, but whatever. But why they overrepresented? Like it's 64% of them, right? Of these companies are started by these immigrant types, right? But anyways, just the point. Just keeping the American dream alive, right? For immigrants can come over here and they can succeed. LAR is like, no.
No, because
I know it's
historically,
not. I know.
you could count Jewish people as immigrants, and they changed their names, and people got mad at them for being Jewish. They thought they were just regular white. That's what people
Hey,
like. It's
a
yeah.
country of immigrants, a nation of immigrants. Yeah. Uh, anyways,
What is the guy
Kaizo,
that oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
What is the guy that owns Alibaba? What something Khan?
Oh no,
He's not.
Alibaba. That's a big forehead guy. Uh, what's his name again?
It was
I
something
forget.
Khan. He's an Indian guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh no, Alibaba is Chinese. Unless you're thinking about some other company.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some other. It's an Indian guy running it. He
Okay.
started it. What I'm saying is, even with the Chinese guy, um, they can't come here and pull off the stunt that Elon Musk, and Elon Musk was rich already. They can't pull that stunt. They got to be rich there and then come here. They're not gonna come here. Like if you look up billionaires in
Jack
America,
Ma.
Jack Ma, that's the big forehead. Okay. If you look at billionaires in America, I'm gonna tell you, it's only one Asian billionaire from America. That's Vera Wang. Everybody else came from abroad. Hispanics, it's the same way. They billionaires are in their country. They don't come here. So my bad.
Hey, let's acknowledge Kaizo's super chat saying Obama was coon king of respectability politics.
He was also Muslim and Christian, guys. So y'all got something in common.
Uh oh.
Oh no.
No, but Kaiser, do you have any comments so far with regards to everything that's being said? Or no? We can move on here. Aspiration and tokenism. Well, now,
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead. Seems like I'm
Yeah.
audible.
So I mean, okay. I was gonna make a commentary on tokenism as well, right? And I think tokenism has a point of view. In this case, for example, right, all Obama did is create the idea that okay, black boys can dream, and I think that is actually a pretty important thing because whether we like it or not, we are most of us humans, and we live we're social creatures, right? So when we see something that again looks like us to some extent and has kind of penetrated, or infiltrated really certain communities, I think this does give hope to people. So as much as we may have not milked everything during his presidency, I do honestly think that that tokenism, just having him there in that powerful position, right, or a black man being head of the most powerful country in the world, this has had also, um, permeation into the rest of geopolitical world and given black people in general a lot more, let's say, cultural power.
So that diversity and inclusion charter or goal of social harmony uh is a is it is a valid one. You may not really like that truth has to be trampled upon in order for
Yeah.
social harmony to happen, or you may not like the fact that viewpoint diversity cannot be tolerated by the brains of normal people, or in social space, for example, or by the mob, generally speaking. Hence, you can't really have it. Okay, or on most YouTube panels either. You can't really have a conversation, but and this is kind of, you can respond to this little silly soliloquy here that I'm having, but that truth has to be sacrificed in the altar of social harmony, and that social harmony only leads to tokenism, and we must accept all these as part of stoic truths and added to the
Yeah.
serenity prayer. Might be something that we all have to swallow, but
I
go
would
ahead,
even
Kaiser.
I would actually slightly disagree on the first premise about truth has to be trampled, because if you do take on a more postmodern framework, you realize that actually the truth can
Right.
be what you want to state. I'll give you an example, right? If you look
He
at the
fell
so
off the bush. Now,
right, if you
let me ask a provocative question here, as we start to land the plane, ladies and gentlemen, on this conversation about Barack Obama. Right, Was Obama overly concerned about being the angry black man? How did he handle the optics, the racial optics, the family, the image of the black man? Kaiser just gave him some credit for being inspirational in certain regards, but generally speaking, I think he has gotten a good lashing out here. Right, there's not a lot of love for Barry. Uh, word him up. Not a lot of love
Barry
for
Jr.
Barry out there. But so, was Barack Obama a token then, Dr. Thunder? It's a petty question, but go ahead and answer it if you want to.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely was. But all presidents are tokens,
It's my audio.
right? Tokens in a different way, but they're selected for reasons that are not based on productivity or based on you know being quote unquote the best person for the job, or the person that is uh, best suited, that has the best skills for the job. They're not. They're you know Presidents are selected for all kinds of other reasons, but uh, the folks that are sort of hand selecting these folks, the people that make it to the end with a D or an R beside their name, they are always pre-selected and selected. It seems mostly based on allegiance. Are they going to do their bidding? Are they a safe bet? Um, to that end, I think Obama was a safe bet. I think, with respect to the folks that have the most to lose, the people that have the most money, the most resources, the most assets, um, he definitely protected their interests. And that's mainly what the president does. And, politics is uh, the gears of politics are lubricated with money.
Hmm.
You know, that's the reality. And so one of the reasons why certain communities are never served, and black folks will never be served by Democrats or Republicans, not truly, not to the extent that would actually create a true transformation, is because you dusty ninjas ain't got no money. You ain't got no money. So
Ain't got no money, and you're politically illiterate.
yeah, there is that problem too. But that's most people. Yeah, but
uh,
that's most people though.
yeah, yeah.
We're probably an average rate of ignorance based on other groups with respect to politics. Um, yeah.
Mhm, mhm. So was Obama a token, LER? And apologies, a minute ago after I finished with that, my speaker went out, and I may have cut off somebody. But Obama, was he a token, LER?
Yes and no. He was a, you know, you got to give props to John Edwards. If it wasn't for John Edwards, he wouldn't be president. Or that chick that John Edwards was banging. You know, you got to give credit where credit is due. Um, so
uh,
that opened the gates. But here's the thing: I think history is going to really look at Obama favorably, though. Like Obama's kind of going to be, in my opinion, in Jimmy Carter's light. Like, because if he can say, he can say, in the history books can say, because of America's racism, they didn't follow through with his whole plan. And if they would have followed through, we wouldn't be in as much debt that we are right now. He could literally
mm,
say that. Because look, I want to do this, you block this. I want to do this, I want to do this. I tried to kowtow to you. I tried to kiss your butt, but you did. But you want to do. And guess what? Everything got worse because you didn't want the black guy to do it. So, as far as a token, yeah, in one way he is a token, and another way he's he in some ways he's Jackie Robinson, and in other ways, how can I put this? It's gonna suck the way I say this. And on other ways, he's Satchel Paige. Let's do that.
Yep.
He got the
That's where I thought you was going, bro.
yeah. I was about to say Josh Gibson, but Josh Gibson had to, he was a little so. In one way, he's the token because he's the quote unquote first, and people go history. He's the second actually because the president's before the presidents. I know we're not gonna do that one, but he had to take all the slings and arrows. But on another end, he was willing to be entertaining to keep the party going. So he was the first, how can I say, the token / shucking and jiving type president. Because he was used to keep black people at bay. And he was put in office in a sense because Bush messed it up so bad. And if you're an American, and you've been around America long enough, you know there's a rule in America. If white people mess it up real bad, they're going to give it to somebody black. and hopefully, they could blame it all on him. That's the general consensus in America. So when y'all see somebody black in a position, like, how you get there? They messed that up horribly. Like Enron was like 1 week away from having a black CEO. Lehman Brothers was like 1 week away from having a black CEO. Yeah.
Oh, when JP Morgan goes down in 2026, it's gonna be a black CEO. Let me ask you what. So regarding something that Dr. Thunder said earlier, right? He was talking about Obama and the man in particular, right? So he said, likes him, like looks like he can identify with him and the way he kind of handled things and so on and so forth. While you were talking about Obama and the way he kind of handled his role as a token, you would agree that it takes some skill, at least, right? So there's something implied already in terms of you're saying that he's at least skilled. That's in what you said. But what do you say with regards to the man himself? Any kind of, do you have anything to say that is in line with what Dr. Thunder said? And shout out to the super chat and let's acknowledge it right before you go, LAR, right? But dropping $30, Dr. Thunder. You got a sound and whatnot?
Yes, I most certainly do. Saul T-Balls with the great big support $30 super chat. Let's go. Saying, hail to the trivium. Thine are 3 columns of strength, wisdom, and intellectual gentry. Greetings, gentlemen. Thine brethren of the Guild of Merchants bestows 1 May, 2 Lizzos, worth sack of coinage from the treasure chest. Let's go.
1 May is equivalent to 2 Lizzos, or is like 1 May and then 2 Lizzos is like change. But anyways, much appreciated.
No. I think he's saying that 1 May is equivalent to 2 Lizzos.
Yeah, there you go. But let me repeat the question on LAR.
Of course, today's show. I'm sorry. Of course, today's show. Lizzo. May will not be watching this show. She won't watch any productivity, any other shows. She will only watch shows that she thinks she can claim this black male victim complex. See, those are the shows she watches. She don't watch any of these. Keep going. Sorry.
Shout out. This guy, Don McKee, is here saying that they gave BlackBerry a black CEO at the end, too.
Yeah. Here we go. Thank you, Don McKee, for
There you
that.
go. There
Thank
you
you,
go.
Don McKee.
Hey,
All right, keep going.
that's not a bad place. Like, you be the fall guy, get a few $100,000 on your way out. Anyways,
And for the panel and all
so
the internet, who has a BlackBerry?
I want you to answer this too as well, Kaiser. But LAR first, the man himself, right? Any kind of would you hang out with him or no? Is he a 100% coon? I don't know. Dr. Thunder's already kind of expressed what he thinks about the dude. What do you think about the dude, LAR?
He's like a smooth setup artist. I wouldn't hang out with him because I'm like, I don't know if you're trying to line me up after this, bro. I'm black. I don't trust him with black people. Like if I hung out with him, I think I'll get robbed at the end of the night. If I hung out, if he hung out with white people, it's different. Like every black person or person of color that he came across, they got jammed up. He was, hey, how you doing, brother?
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, Bill Cosby was at the White House before this. Look, I don't trust that. Kanye West was at the White House.
Obama plants cocaine
Listen,
in your jacket, freaking gets you set up. You're like, what the? You're like,
wait a minute. Everybody got jammed up except for what's his name? And he had like the most visits to the White House, like in history of anybody. What? Al Sharpton.
Oh.
Sharpton
did all right, but everybody else got jacked.
Just can't do it, man. He'd be nice to hang out with. I hang out with him on FaceTime from an undisclosed location. I'm like, I don't want you to see me personally.
So you okay? I got it. So you makes perfect sense. So Kaiser, what do you think about the man Barack Obama and how he handled everything and how he's still handling things right now, which is kind of out there, finally paid off his student loans and got the millions coming in from all kinds of stuff, and he can hang out and spend millions of dollars.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead,
mean,
Kaiser.
yeah, I think he definitely was the
Salty balls again
king of
coming up.
respectability
Yeah, go ahead.
politics, and I think you're bogging a little bit. Yeah, so I think he was a king of respectability politics. I think he did his best given the circumstances and being a pioneer. And I think if he started, releasing certain sentiments, right, being annoyed at the media for all the stuff that they were doing to him, he would have been labeled as the hungry black man, right? Especially in this case, since he's from an African background as well, right? They would have named him that. So I think he did what he did given the circumstances. He pioneered, he created a path for other black men or women, I guess, to dream bigger in other fields as well, or etc. So if if a black can be the president, maybe a black can also be the I don't know, head of a company like a BlackBerry. And you know what they say: the sweeter, the darker the berry, the sweeter the fool.
Okay, good. Not bad. Not
Hey,
bad.
let me acknowledge Salty Balls again, and in particular because of the earlier $30 super chat. It's got a $5 follow up. And this is so this so he says weights and measures. 2, in this dominion, this realm of greatness. 1, May equivalates to 2 Lizzos. What Lizzo equivalates to 2 Abrams? That's,
Oh.
wait a minute. Hold up.
May's not bad then. May is the coin of the realm. Go ahead. Yeah, another one.
Right. Again, Salty Balls with the $10 super chat saying, my great apologies to the fourth gentleman. I only seen 3 initially. Salutations to you two, Kaiser and Empire. Yes. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Sir.
Guys, who got his Lizzo Abadi says word him up. So Kaizo says the king of respectability politics did what he had to do. LAR doesn't trust him, a little too slick, a little too calculated, right? Little too close to the vest, introverted schemer. And Dr. Thunder, being the calculated introverted schemer that he is, says, "Hey, right up my alley," and they can drink beer and scheme together. Um,
Yes.
Shout out, yes, yes, yes. You know, I think that Obama was a good case study in this idea of substance versus symbolism, right? As Dr. Thunder
Yeah.
likes to put, the way he likes to put it. We talked about tokenism and the strivings of diversity of inclusion, right? What exactly can we get out of it when we tell people that we want justice of a particular kind? Okay, Kaizo announce to us or draw our attention to the fact that there are many aspects to the issues facing the black community. He called them abstract, which is the first aspect, which is that it's not as simple as, oh, there's no running water in this place, or like, oh, there's no electricity. It's like, oh, just fix electricity. It's like, no, it's like rights and racism and history and this and that and all that kind of stuff. Multifaceted. And in one arena, we have the first black president. And how did he do? And overall, I think he leaves much to be desired in the eyes of the average black man, according to the survey of the two representatives, LAR and Dr. Thunder, today holding it down for the black community. But let us kind of give our final thoughts on this whole case here, ladies and gentlemen. And thanks again for all the generous super chats. It's still, yeah, there's still time for the rest of you guys, right? The rest of you guys followed the examples of Mrs. H and Salty Balls and Don McKee. Go ahead and hit us up with that super chat. We talked about everything from Jeremiah Wright, right? How would you have handled Jeremiah Wright? What do you think about the Trayvon Martin type of situation? Was he worried about the whole black man thing? How did he I think that all things considered, um, uh, it's almost like if it was going to be a disaster. And by disaster, I mean the first black president was going to be some kind of event, anyways, right? And this seemed to be like the least disastrous it could have been, all right? Like
Yeah.
I think he kind of skated and shucked, jived, and moonwalked his way through through that one pretty nicely overall. But Kaizoran Empire, your final thoughts, your geopolitical insights of the week and whatnot, and then go to LR and then Dr. Thunder to take us out.
Yeah, so ultimately, apart from Obama having been selected to participate in the presidential election in that time for, let's say, domestic reasons, such as improving race relations and other reasons, whether that happened or not, that's a separate discussion. From a geopolitical standpoint, their purpose of using Obama was actually obviously to invade Libya, right, an African country, without as much backlash. Him and Hillary Clinton, etc., and also to promote let's get busy together attitudes across the world. So ultimately, I think that we do focus on the in-house American reasons for him getting so far ahead, but we must always remember that America is an empire, and they did use him for what they needed, and he was willing participant as the king of respectability politics.
Indeed. Shout out to Kaizoran Empire. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel some way, somehow. And LAR movement keeps moving. LAR, what are your final thoughts?
Shout out to Kaizo. Let's get busy together is hilarious.
Yeah, that was the first time I've actually heard that one too. I was like, this is fresh off the press. Like, nice. Thanks for bringing that one wherever the hell you brought it up from, whichever Reddit group.
Yeah, as far as Obama, man, he's, oh, I was about to be trifling. I gotta calm down. I was about to say he's Wayne Brady, but because of the Wayne Brady thing that just happened, I don't need no future thing to come out. He's black enough, but not black enough. I'm just shut up. I'm just go ahead and I'm done. Leave it at that.
Okay. Um.
All right.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, I it, look. I really, I like Obama the person. I like Obama the family man. Um, the uh, the intellectual, the academic, um, the introvert. The substance over swag. I like Obama for those things. His eloquence. Um, you know, I I I like those things about him. I hated his politics. Um, and I didn't appreciate the way that he kind of double crossed his mentor, Jeremiah Wright. I didn't like that. However, that being said, and by the way, Mrs. H, the only reason you think Obama has swag now is because he was the president. That ain't swag. um, uh, but uh, I think he did the job that he was intended to do. Right? He was the first. He was a token. Um, he made sure to protect the money. You know, he didn't do too much stuff for black folks, even though one of the things that he proposed in his first uh, in his first in his first term, my brother's keeper, that that was promising. That looked very promising. That would have been something if honestly, if the black feminists didn't get in there and totally jack that up and start holding their hand out asking for where their money, you know, if that didn't happen, if we didn't sort of destroy that in its infancy, I'm talking about black people, that that alone would have been enough for me to have a much more positive view of Obama. But at least he thought of that. But they killed it off. So anyhow, I mean, yeah, I don't know that he was good for race relations. I think he was bad for race relations. I think we're worse off having a lot of these kinds of conversations now than we were before. And frankly, I think some of the sort of animus that was stoked by having a black president is what facilitated the rise of Donald Trump. It facilitated the rise of Donald Trump. And in my interview with Daryl Davis, Daryl went into some details and has a particular perspective and some knowledge on that whole Charlottesville business that I thought was really interesting. And his sort of assessment of Donald Trump was to say that there are the white nationalist types that like Trump, and there are the regular garden variety normie ham and egger white folks that like Trump. But the white nationalists and the ham and eggers don't like each other. And this is the first time in history, this is what Daryl said, the first time in history where two separate bases, where a president had these two clearly separate bases that were not related, right? And that's very interesting. Without the white nationalists, as it were, Trump doesn't win, and they definitely were stoked by having the first black president. and sort of mobilized. Hey, we got to get into action. Right. So I think it wasn't positive for race relations, but it wasn't because of Obama. I think if any black person was in there, you were going to have a similar sort of outcome. I do want to acknowledge one more time all of the super chats from today's show. Thank you very much, Mrs. H, C. Ray Rogers, Black Guru Strikes, Black Guru Strikes Again, Kaiserian Empire, Salty Balls, Don McKee, Salty Balls Again, and Salty Balls Again. Thank you very, very much for the support. And if you'd like to buy me a sandwich, you can shoot me a Cash App. Hashtag Sandwich Gang. And that is our time.
Yep.
Peace out.
Peace.